Okay, welcome to another edition of A Day in the Life of a Professional Detailer, which is my life. And in case anyone was wondering, yeah, I'm pretty grateful. I get to see a lot of cool stuff anyhow. And if you've been to my website, autofetishdetail.com, you will see that I cater to virtually anything. Cars, boats, RVs, commercial equipment, motorcycles, you name it. Today I'm working on this Centurion. I want to say this is 24 feet, but I could be wrong. It's pretty wide. I do a lot of boats, not as many cars. Anyhow, boats do represent a unique challenge that are different than cars. Obvious. I guess the obvious is the obvious, which is it's not a car. I guess is what I'm getting at, is that a lot of people either assume they're the same as far as waxing, polishing, and so forth, or they consider them completely different animals and therefore go chasing down the best boat wax or the best boat polish. So I'm not going to address that just yet. I'm going to take you on the inside. Here's the full frontal on the inside. Anyhow, let's go on the inside and have a little discussion. Okay, Darren here. I'm on the inside of the boat. I want to, I guess what I've decided is that each time I have an opportunity to film, regardless of what I'm working on, that represents an opportunity to teach you guys something. Because literally as I'm working, I'll go through and I'll come across a task and I'll think, oh yeah, I got to remember to say something about this. But by the time I get home, or if it's just too inconvenient to get out of the boat or the car to write it down, I'm gonna forget. So there's a couple things that have been going through my head when it comes to boats. Now I know this is off topic. I've gone off the reservation for some of you because you're here about cars. So this will be labeled about boats. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of different viewers because they have boats and they want to know some tricks. So the basic rule is that anything that can work for a car can work for a boat. That is the rule. Now there's exceptions to the rule. Now before I get into the exceptions to the rule on the outside, let's talk about the inside. So I've got my mcguire's all-purpose cleaner and I've got my mcguire's super degreaser. Now because boats really take abuse, especially, and by the way, they do not use leather in boats. I don't know how many people, I don't know why, they talk about the leather in their boat. It's not leather, it's vinyl, okay? It's a synthetic material. It will come in different textures, different colors, but it's synthetic. So because it usually has some form of grain to it, and sometimes it can be a very heavy texture, I will cut to the chase because of the dirt. And unless it's just a pristine or brand new boat, I'm just going to cut to the chase, use my super degreaser, diluted down 5 to 1. Okay, 5 to 1. My non-abrasive scrub pad and my upholstery brush. These are the same tools I use on the inside of a car. It's just on a car I can bump it down to less aggressive materials. Boats, I just know that this is going to be the winning combination. Also my magic eraser, which I left out of the boat and I can't show you that, but you know what that looks like. I've got my toothbrushes, my dusting brushes, everything virtually is the same. So something that you need to know is that with boats, like everywhere else in the world, SUVs, minivans, even your homes, your cabinetry, they keep figuring out ways to engineer space so that they engineer every last usable space, or how do I word this? This is not coming out very well. There's endless compartments. They figure out new ways to manipulate and configure every last usable inch into usable space. How about that? So forever there's compartments. Every time you think you've cleaned it, you've lifted something up, you find some new compartment. So boats present that unique challenge, like the new SUVs and vans. It's just amazing what they can engineer, how seats fold and collapse and tuck underneath, and then there's a cover that goes over it, and it just goes on and on and on. Anyhow, so with boats like this, for example, this goes way inside there. This seat folds up and down. I literally have to crawl in there to detail it out. For the most part on this boat, I'm using this non-abrasive pad and my super degreaser, and then a microfiber cloth to clean it up. Now, one of the exceptions to the rule, and I'll bring you in, is the carpeting on boats. There's my vacuum cleaner. This carpeting is not traditional carpeting. It is the thickest, it looks like traditional carpeting, like it has a traditional nap, which is the material that sticks up, all the fibers, but it is so tight, it is miserable to try to clean and scrub up. But with that said, is, for example, my all-purpose cleaner, it's the same as carpeting on the inside of your car. You simply douse it, get your scrub brush, and scrub, and then your microfiber, and you see this is it's like I can't even hardly wipe the microfiber across it because it just, I don't know how to describe it unless you've experienced it firsthand yourself, and if you're a boat owner you do. But for the most part, unless we're talking about actual spills, this dirt is going to be superficial. So it will clean up. And it's, once again, in case this is your first time to my channel and you're just a boat owner and you haven't tuned in because of a car, it's always better to do lighter repeat applications. So you spray, you scrub, you mop up, check for results. And you just keep doing it over and over again until you get the desired results. Literally, I will have to do it 4 and 5 times sometimes, okay? So just to give you the heads up, if it's not working the first time, well, trust me, you're not alone. Okay, so something else. If you are in the professional world, you're just starting out or you're trying to get into it, a little word of advice, a couple words in fact. Never, ever, ever trust a customer who says that they're going to be back at a certain time, because they never will, ever. In 25 plus years, I literally have had one customer that has come back when they said they would. And what I mean by this is I'll be out here working and the customer, Johnny customer, will come up and say, hey Darren, how much longer you got? I got a couple errands to run. And they catch me off guard and it's like, an hour and a half? I don't know. So word of advice, think about it. How long do you think you have? If you have 2 hours, you tell them an hour and a half. Okay, do not worry about them thinking, gee, he only has an hour and a half and he's charging me this amount of money. Okay, completely separate issue here, okay? Because that customer, I promise you, will take way longer than they say. So if you literally get done in 2 hours and you told them about 2 hours, guess what? It's gonna be at least 2.5 or 3 hours before they're home. So you always have to pad it in reverse. So if you think it's going to be 2 hours, you tell them an hour and a half. If you think it's going to be an hour, you tell them about a half an hour. And you could just add, I don't know for sure, but I think about a half an hour to be safe. So I always add that. To play it safe, give me half an hour or be back. Because they never are back on time. They either lose track in time or they just basically at a subconscious level don't respect your time and place a value on it enough to have the respect to show back up here in time. So that's an added note. The second one has to do with age. Okay, the older the person is, guess what? the more responsible they are, the more respectful of your time and effort they are. So this is not to slam all you youngsters out there, and yes, I can call most of you probably youngsters. I'm about just a little over a year away from being 50. Okay, so it's not my first rodeo, it's not my first time around the block. So whenever I'm dealing with someone young, which is the exception to the rule, because most of my customers are like 50 and above. That's the sweet spot for me, is probably 45 to 75, and probably 80% of them are men. So that's the sweet spot for me. And this is going to be a case by case based on where you live, what city, what state. There's a lot of factors that will go into this. So what I know is that when I get a phone call and they sound young on the phone, because you can usually tell, the younger they are, the more caution I will apply. And what I mean by that is I will go into specific details even more on the phone with them as to what to expect. What do I expect? When I get here, I'm going to make sure they know exactly what I'm going to deliver and exactly what's going to cost. Because the younger they are, the more flighty they are with their money, and the more impulsive they are with their money, and the more they want something for nothing. The older you get, the more realistic you get, and that's why part of my world has about working smart and being profitable is kind of catering to a specific demographic. So whenever I got a younger guy or girl that I'm showing up for, I always know that there's going to be a greater chance of problems, miscommunication. So I do have to overthink it. I will micromanage them through communication, make sure they understand exactly what's going on. I will never think that they're going to keep track of time themselves. If I want cash up front, I'm going to tell them specifically cash up front. I had some knucklehead who decided at the very end, it's like, oh, I got to run and get cash. It's like, well, dude, I don't want to sit here for 20 minutes while you run to the bank and get cash. You should have been prepared, but this was a young guy because he doesn't know. He's just, inexperienced. So that's where I would say, okay, when I get there, I'm going to get there between 10 and 10:30 a.m. This is what I'll need. I take cash only. Be prepared in advance to have the cash so I don't have to wait around at the end for you to run to the bank, whatever that requires. And people will appreciate it, believe it or not. And unfortunately, a lot of you will live out of fear where you think, oh, I can't talk to a person like that. They'll scare them away and they'll go find someone else. Well, guess what? Trust me, if that scares them away, you're going to want to find someone else, because that will be the part of the 80-20 rule that you don't want. Whereas then you got 20% of your customers that cause 80% of your problems. That 80-20 rule applies both ways. You'll have 20% of your customers that will provide 80% of your income. So anyhow, I found through experience, and unfortunately this is one of those areas that only experience can teach you, is that based on how you communicate to people, you can either, it's about that trust issue I talked about, but it's also respect. You can either develop respect and they will respect you, and you can basically train them to make it a win-win for both of you. Because I'm not trying to make it just a win for me. I want it a win for both of us. But unfortunately, the younger they get, the more they're fixated on just making a win for them. Anyhow, I know that was a little long-winded, but it is very critical advice, and hopefully you can put it into practice. And don't be scared about being direct and being honest and candid with your customers, and it will help you out. It'll help you to become more profitable. You will teach your customer that you mean business and you're a professional, and that they can't disrespect your time and effort. Okay. So let's go to the outside. We'll talk about boats as far as gel coats and so forth. Okay, the big problem with boats, and it's like RVs, is that one of two things happens. Either A, people go chasing their tail looking for the best boat wax, the best boat polish, and trust me, there's plenty of them. mcguire's has a whole line of marine and RV This is a cleaner wax, one step. We've got our Power Cut compound. I've got CSI Rip Cut compound. I've got Menzerna compound, which is for cars, by the way. So the deal with gel coat versus clear coat is that it's far more durable. It's literally like bathtub material. And that's the main difference, is that it's such a tough, durable material that products labeled for marine or RV use are far more aggressive by nature than your clear coat. And because clear coat is so durable, because gel coat is such a tough, durable material, it requires far more aggressive techniques in tools and speed and pressure and friction than you would on a clear coated car. So your traditional DA polisher is going to produce very minimal results on a boat. That's why I have my rotary polisher out. You'll notice my wool pad. I've got my foam pads, which I don't even use on the boat. I strictly stick to wool pads. Anyhow, but with that said, if your boat is in pristine shape, you don't have to go shopping for a specialty boat wax. Any wax that you can use on a car, you can use on a boat if, here's the big if, the big disclaimer, if there's no form of oxidation whatsoever. Now this boat is in pristine shape. It doesn't mean it's free of any scratches. We'll go for a little visual here. This metallic is actually part of the gel coat. It's like the fishing boats. It's got this metallic stripe through it, but it's part of the gel coat. But then it also has decals on it. Plus, it's got one of these rubberized decals on top of the decal, on top of the gel coat. So when it comes to boats, you got a lot of variables. And the last detailer, who is less than meticulous, left a bunch of wax crammed in all these emblems, which now I get to remove and detail out the way it should be. Anyhow, so we've got this metallic stripe that literally you can feel no ridge. The stripe, because it's a vinyl decal, suddenly you feel a ridge and you can grab it with your nail. This is part of the actual gel coat process. So you can use any wax you want. Now, if it's my boat, and I'm not going to get into the whole debate of what is the most durable, long-lasting sealant or wax. That debate will go on forever. So, because I do believe in modern day chemical engineering, I do tend to believe that synthetic sealants will outperform the carnauba based products. And when I mean outperform, I'm strictly talking about durability right now. I'm not talking about visual enhancement, because there's always trade-offs. If you're looking for pure visual enhancement, go with a carnauba paste wax or a hybrid spray wax. If you're looking for durability, personally, I prefer a synthetic product. What I personally, or I should say professionally, and here's one, Mothers FX Synwax. This is the only Mothers product that I use professionally. It is a really great product. I also use Menzerna, their PL Power Lock polymer sealant. Polymer, that's just a big, confusing, ambiguous term that could mean virtually just about anything. It's like saying plastic. It's like, wow, plastics only come in endless configurations and formulations. Same with polymers. It just means a combination of things. It's kind of like saying alloys. Oh, it's an alloy. It's like, oh, wow, that really tells me nothing. Almost nothing. Anyhow, but I'm going to go with the synthetic. If the boat's in pristine shape. If it has any form of oxidation, to simplify the moment because it's such a complex issue, I would start with the mcguire's cleaner wax as your first point of entry. whether it's by hand or by machine. Now, cleaner in this moment does not mean abrasives. It just means purely a chemical cleaner. So that's my first point of entry. I'm not going to get into the whole gel coat restoration or fiberglass restoration. You can see my other video where I did the front end of that RV. That is fiberglass restoration. Very comprehensive, includes sanding, polishing. It is a big nut to crack. Anyhow, so hope you've learned something, and till next time, the next time of a day in the life of a professional detailer.